In 2025, everyone knew Elon Musk had secretly developed a working time machine, but nobody knew about the unexpected passenger who joined the first test flight. That passenger was Donald Trump. And now they were both stranded together in the wild west of 1885, and the only way back home was to work together. Elon Musk was making final adjustments in his secret. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more great stories. Like the video too. Laboratory at Tesla's Austin factory. The time machine project was his greatest invention, unknown to the public. 3 years of development, countless failed prototypes, and billions of dollars had led to this moment. The quantum tunneling technology made backward time travel more than just theory, it was now reality. The laboratory itself was a marvel of engineering. Hidden beneath the main factory floor, it stretched across an area the size of a football field. Crystalline quantum processors hummed with energy, their blue glow reflecting off polished steel surfaces. The time machine capsule stood at the center like a metallic cocoon, its surface covered in intricate patterns of circuitry and sensors. "Friday, are all systems ready?" he asked, standing in front of the massive metallic capsule while reviewing holographic displays floating in the air around him. "Yes, Mr. Musk. All quantum field generators are online. Temporal displacement calculations verified. Target, 24 hours back. Safe test parameters. Duration, 10 minutes maximum. I must remind you, sir, this is still experimental technology." Musk nodded, his mind racing through the possibilities. If this worked, humanity could prevent disasters, learn from history, maybe even save lives. But the risks. The risks were astronomical. One miscalculation could tear a hole in space-time itself. Just then, the factory's security alarms began blaring with an intensity that made Musk's ears ring. Red warning lights bathed the laboratory in an ominous glow. He looked at the security monitors and saw Donald Trump entering the factory with a full entourage of Secret Service agents. His characteristic confident stride, unmistakable even on the grainy security footage. "What? We didn't have an appointment today," Musk muttered, frantically checking his calendar on his neural interface. "Friday, why wasn't I notified?" "Sir, it appears Mr. Trump's visit was unscheduled. He invoked emergency presidential access protocols. Security was overridden from the highest levels." Trump entered the laboratory with his characteristic energy, his expensive suit somehow remaining perfectly pressed despite the industrial environment. His eyes immediately locked onto the most impressive piece of technology in the room. "Elon, this is a tremendous place. Absolutely tremendous. What's this thing, a new rocket? It's beautiful, very beautiful." "Mr. President, this isn't the right time," Musk said, stepping between Trump and the time machine while desperately trying to think of a cover story. "Of course it's the right time. I'm Donald Trump. It's always the right time." Trump approached the capsule with the confidence of a man who had never encountered a door he couldn't open. "What does this thing do? Is this for Mars? Are we going to Mars today?" The Secret Service agents spread out through the laboratory, their trained eyes taking in every detail. Musk could see them whispering into their communication devices, probably reporting the unusual technology they were witnessing. It's a new type of spacecraft simulator," Musk lied, his voice cracking slightly. "Very experimental. Not ready for testing. Simulator. This looks real to me. Very real. I know real when I see it, and this is real." Trump walked around the capsule, running his hand along its smooth surface. "This is some next-level stuff, Elon. How much did this cost? Must be billions, right?" As Musk tried to guide Trump away from the machine, explaining fictional spacecraft simulation protocols, his elbow accidentally bumped into the emergency activation panel. The large red button, designed for quick activation in case of temporal anomalies, depressed with a soft click. Immediately, warning klaxons began wailing throughout the laboratory. The capsule began glowing with an otherworldly light, quantum particles dancing in the air like fireflies. Energy readings spiked across all monitoring systems. No, no, nitrogen monoxide, Musk shouted, lunging for the abort sequence. But the quantum field was already building to critical mass. Everyone get back. Get back now. The Secret Service agents drew their weapons instinctively, though their training had never prepared them for temporal displacement events. Trump, however, moved closer to the capsule, his curiosity overriding any sense of danger. This is incredible. What's happening? Trump peered inside the capsule just as the quantum field reached full power. The last thing Musk saw before the blinding flash was Trump's amazed expression as the temporal vortex pulled them both into the swirling energy. The laboratory disappeared in a burst of light that seemed to tear reality itself apart. Flash. When consciousness returned to Musk, he found himself lying face down in something that definitely wasn't the polished floor of his laboratory. His mouth was full of grit, and the air smelled of dust, horse manure, and something else, wood smoke, and unwashed humanity. He pushed himself up, spitting dirt, and tried to focus his eyes. The world around him had changed completely. Gone were the sleek surfaces and humming technology of his laboratory. Instead, he found himself in what appeared to be the main street of a frontier town. Wooden buildings lined the dirt road, their facades weathered by sun and wind. Horse-drawn carriages moved slowly through the street, kicking up clouds of dust. Men in wide-brimmed hats and women in long dresses moved about their business, paying no attention to the two strangely dressed men who had apparently materialized in their midst. "Where are we?" he asked Trump, who was lying a few feet away, his expensive suit now covered in dirt and straw. Trump sat up slowly, looking around with the same bewilderment that Musk felt. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and there was a streak of mud across his cheek. Is this ... Is this a movie set? Are you filming a Western? This is very realistic. Very, very realistic. No, Musk said, his voice heavy with the growing realization of what had happened. We're in 1885, the real Wild West. Very funny, very funny. Now, tell me the truth. Where's the camera crew? This is for one of those reality shows, right? Trump Goes West or something like that? Before Musk could respond, a shadow fell across them. They looked up to see a man who looked like he had stepped directly out of a Western movie. If Western movies had been grimier and more dangerous than Hollywood usually portrayed. He was tall and lean, with a weathered face that spoke of years under the desert sun. His clothes were practical dark pants, a worn shirt, and a gun belt that looked like it had seen considerable use. Most importantly, his hand rested casually on the grip of his pistol. "Hey, you two," the man called out in a voice rough as sandpaper. "This here's Wild Bill Hickok's territory. These streets belong to him, and strangers ain't welcome without cause. What business you got here?" Trump, despite being in what was clearly a dangerous situation, immediately switched into the mode that had served him well in countless business negotiations. He stood up, brushed off his suit as best he could, and extended his hand with his trademark confident smile. "Hello there, friend. I'm Donald Trump, a very successful businessman from New York. This is my associate, Elon. We came here to investigate investment opportunities in this fine town of yours." The cowboy, for that's clearly what he was, looked at the extended hand with suspicion, then at Trump's strange clothes, then at Musk's even stranger clothes. He didn't shake the offered hand. "Trump? What kind of name is that? Sounds foreign. And what are these strange clothes you're wearing? That shirt looks like it's made of materials I ain't never seen before." Musk quickly grabbed Trump's arm, pulling him back before he could elaborate on his business empire or his presidency. "We single quotes travelers from back east, very far east. And you," the cowboy pointed at Musk, "you talk funny too. Where exactly are you from?" "Pennsylvania," Musk said, quickly, choosing a state that existed in 1885. "We're inventors. We came here to to study the local mining techniques." The cowboy's eyes narrowed. "Inventors, huh? What kind of inventions?" This was dangerous territory. Musk's mind raced through technologies that might have existed in 1885, or at least been conceivable electrical devices for for mining operations and improved transportation, like them steam engines, something like that. The cowboy studied them for a long moment, clearly trying to decide if they were harmless eccentrics or potential threats. Finally, he seemed to reach a conclusion. Well, inventors or not, you can't just lie around in the street like a couple of drunks. This is a respectable town. You got money for lodging. Trump immediately reached for his wallet, pulling out several $100 bills. The cowboy's eyes went wide at the sight of currency he had never seen before. What kind of money is that? That ain't real currency. Musk quickly pushed Trump's hand down. We'll work for our lodging. We're very skilled with our hands. After some negotiation, and after Musk had managed to trade his expensive watch, claiming it was a newfangled timepiece from Philadelphia for local currency, they found themselves in the town's only. The building was rough but functional, with a main room that served as both lobby and saloon, and a dozen small rooms upstairs. Alone in their shared room, a space barely larger than a closet, with 2 narrow beds and a wash basin. Musk tried to explain their situation to Trump. Listen carefully, Musk said, sitting on the edge of his bed while Trump examined the primitive furnishings with fascination. The quantum field displacement worked, but not as intended. We've been thrown back 140 years into the past. This isn't a simulation. This isn't a movie set. This isn't a prank. We are actually in the year 1885. Trump sat heavily on his own bed, which creaked ominously under his weight. You're serious, aren't you? Completely serious. Look around you. Really look. Musk gestured toward the window. No electric lights, no automobiles, no telephones, no airplanes in the sky. The people, their clothes, their speech patterns, everything is authentic, 19th century. Trump moved to the window and peered out at the street below. In the fading daylight, he could see people moving about their evening business. A man was lighting oil lamps along the street. Women carried water buckets from a communal well. Children played games that involved sticks and hoops rather than electronic devices. Oh, Trump said quietly. Then, louder. Oh, this is real. Yes. And getting back to our time requires me to repair the time machine with 1885 technology, which is challenging. How challenging? Musk ran his hands through his hair, a gesture that had become habitual during the most stressful moments of running Tesla and SpaceX. I need to generate enough electrical power to activate quantum field generators using materials that won't be invented for another 50 to 100 years. It's like being asked to build a computer using only Roman engineering. Trump was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then, in a tone that was surprisingly thoughtful, he said, "So what do we need to do? We need to work together. I can handle the technical challenges, I hope, but I'll need help dealing with the people here. You're good with people. I'm very good with people. The best with people. But Elon, these people are different. Different how? They're direct. No public relations, no media management, no spin. If they don't like you, they shoot you. It's refreshing, but also terrifying." Over the next few days, they began to understand the dynamics of the town. It was called Prosperity, an optimistic name for a settlement that seemed to survive primarily on mining, cattle ranching, and the occasional influx of travelers heading further west. The population was maybe 200 people, most of whom had come here seeking their fortunes in silver mining. Musk spent his time with the town blacksmith, a man named Jonas Cromwell, who had the arms of someone who had spent decades working with heavy metal and the patience to explain his craft to the strange inventor from back east. Jonas was curious about Musk's electrical devices and eager to learn about new techniques. "So you're saying," Jonas said, pumping the bellows while Musk sketched primitive electrical components on a piece of bark, "that you can make light with no fire?" "In theory, yes. but I need very pure copper, iron with specific magnetic properties, and glass that can be shaped very precisely. Well, we got copper from the mines. Iron we can work with, glass. Jonas scratched his beard. That's trickier. Nearest glassmaker is in Denver. 3 days hard riding. Meanwhile, Trump was discovering his own talents in this environment. His natural confidence and charisma, combined with his lifelong experience in negotiation, made him surprisingly effective with the town's business community. Within a week, he had befriended most of the local merchants and even some of the ranchers. You know, Mr. Johnson, Trump said to the town's wealthiest cattle rancher. As they shared drinks in the saloon, I've been thinking about your land. Have you ever considered what might be under it? Under it? You mean like minerals? Exactly. Back east, I've seen fortunes made from oil deposits, black liquid that burns cleaner than wood and hotter than coal. In 40 years, it'll be worth more than gold. Johnson laughed. Oil. That black muck that sometimes seeps up. Who'd want that? Trust me on this one. Mark the spots where you see that black muck. Someday, someone will pay you handsomely for access to those locations. What Trump was doing was risky. He was essentially providing insider knowledge about future developments, but he was careful to present everything as speculation and investment advice rather than prophetic certainty. Their routine was disrupted in the second week when riders came into town with news that sent ripples of excitement and fear through the community. Billy the Kid is heading this way, announced the sheriff, a tired-looking man named Patterson who seemed perpetually overwhelmed by his job. Got word from Santa Fe that he and his gang robbed a bank there 3 days ago. They're moving north, and prosperity is right in their path. Musk and Trump exchanged glances. They had heard of Billy the Kid, of course, one of the most famous outlaws of the American West. But knowing about him from history books and potentially meeting him in person were entirely different matters. How dangerous is this Billy person? Trump asked Jonas that evening as they worked on electrical components in the blacksmith shop. Dangerous enough, Jonas replied grimly. He's killed men, that's for certain. But he ain't just a killer, he's smart, tactical, and his gang is loyal. If they decide this town has something worth taking, there ain't much we can do to stop them. That night, Musk and Trump discussed their situation. They were making progress on the technical aspects of the time machine repair. Musk had managed to create a primitive electrical generator and was working on more complex components. But the approach of Billy the Kid added a dangerous variable to their plans. Maybe we should leave town, Trump suggested. Head somewhere safer until you can finish your work. I can't transport the equipment I've built. And Jonas has materials and tools I can't get anywhere else. Besides, where would we go? We don't know the territory, we don't have horses, and we'd be just as vulnerable on the road. So we stay and hope this Billy person passes us by, or we find a way to deal with the situation. Trump was quiet for a moment. You know, in business, when you can't avoid a problem, sometimes the best solution is to turn it into an opportunity. What do you mean? Billy the Kid is a businessman too, in his own way. Maybe we can negotiate. The next morning brought Billy the Kid and his gang into prosperity. They arrived like something out of a Western movie. 6 men on horseback. Dust swirling around them, weapons clearly visible. But what struck Musk immediately was how young Billy looked. He couldn't have been more than 21, with an almost boyish face that made his reputation seem incongruous. The townspeople scattered as the riders moved down the main street. Shutters slammed closed, and the few people who remained in sight kept their eyes down and their movements careful. Billy dismounted in front of the saloon and surveyed the town with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. His men remained mounted, their hands resting casually on their weapons. "This is a nice little town," Billy called out, his voice carrying easily in the silence. "Prosperous looking. We've been riding hard, and we could use some hospitality." Sheriff Patterson appeared from his office. his badge glinting in the sunlight, but his hand nowhere near his gun. He was clearly outmatched and knew it. "Mr. Kidd," Patterson said formally, "what brings you to Prosperity?" "Just passing through, Sheriff. Looking for supplies, maybe a hot meal and a soft bed. We're willing to pay fair prices for fair treatment." This was the moment Trump had been preparing for. Against Musk's protests, he had decided to approach Billy directly. He stepped out of the general store where he had been buying supplies and walked calmly toward the group of outlaws. "Gentlemen," Trump said with his trademark confident smile, "welcome to Prosperity. I'm Donald Trump, a businessman from New York. Perhaps we can discuss some mutually beneficial arrangements." Billy's men tensed, hands moving toward their guns, but Billy himself seemed amused by this unexpected approach. "A businessman, you say? What kind of business brings a man to a place like this?" "Investment opportunities, mining ventures, and right now I'm particularly interested in discussing logistics and security services." Billy studied Trump with new interest. "Security services. A man in your profession must understand the value of information. Knowledge of safe routes, reliable suppliers, friendly towns versus hostile ones. That information has value." This was a dangerous game Trump was playing. He was essentially offering to provide intelligence to an outlaw gang, but he was counting on Billy's pragmatic nature. Most successful outlaws were businessmen at heart, just operating outside the law. "What kind of information might you have?" "I know which banks have recently received large deposits. I know which stagecoaches carry valuable cargo, and when they travel, I know which towns have competent sheriffs and which ones are less well protected." Musk watched this exchange with growing alarm. Trump was improvising wildly, making promises he couldn't keep and claims he couldn't verify, but there was a strange logic to it in this time period. Information really was valuable, and someone with Trump's apparent connections might indeed have access to useful intelligence. Billy seemed to be thinking along the same lines. "And what would you want in exchange for this information?" "Protection for this town. Prosperity has been good to me, and I'd prefer it remain peaceful and profitable." "You're asking me not to rob the place. I'm asking you to consider it a long-term investment rather than a short-term score. A safe town where your people can rest and resupply is worth more than whatever you might steal from it once." Billy laughed, a sound that was genuinely amused, rather than threatening. "You know what, Mr. Trump? I like you. You think like a businessman. All right, let's talk." What followed was one of the most surreal negotiations in the history of the American West. A future president and a famous outlaw discussing terms over whiskey in a frontier saloon, while a tech billionaire from the future worked frantically to build a time machine in a blacksmith shop. The terms they eventually agreed upon were surprisingly reasonable. Billy's gang would spend 3 days in Prosperity, paying for their food and lodging with money from their recent bank robbery. Though this went unmentioned, in exchange, Trump would provide them with intelligence about potential targets in the region, information he would have to fabricate carefully, ensuring it wouldn't lead to actual harm. During those 3 days, something unexpected happened. Billy the Kid turned out to be intelligent, curious, and surprisingly well-read for someone who had lived most of his life on the run. He was fascinated by Trump's stories of the modern world back east and asked countless questions about business, technology, and politics. "So you're saying they're building buildings in New York that are 6 stories tall?" Billy asked incredulously. "Some are even taller," Trump replied truthfully. "And they're working on ways to build them even higher. Someday, buildings might reach 10 or 12 stories. That's impossible. The weight would collapse the foundation. They're developing new techniques. Steel frames, better engineering. The future is going to be very different from today." Meanwhile, Musk was making real progress on the time machine repairs. With Jonas's help, he had constructed a surprisingly sophisticated electrical generation system, using water power from the town's well and creek. The The hardest part was creating components precise enough to generate and control the quantum fields needed for temporal displacement. I don't understand half of what you're building, Jonas admitted as they worked together on what Musk had described as a very advanced electrical generator, but it's the most beautiful engineering I've ever seen. The breakthrough came when Musk realized he didn't need to replicate his original quantum field generators exactly. He could create a cruder but more powerful system that would generate a temporal displacement field through brute force rather than precision. It would be dangerous. The energy requirements were enormous, and the field would be unstable, but it might work. I need a massive electrical discharge, Musk explained to Trump on the second night of Billy's visit. More power than I can generate. With the equipment available here, what kind of power? Lightning. I need to harness a lightning strike. Trump stared at him. Like Benjamin Franklin. Exactly like Benjamin Franklin, but on a much larger scale. I need to build a lightning rod system that can capture and direct the energy of a lightning strike into the temporal displacement field. When the next thunderstorm, Musk looked at the clear night sky through their window. I don't know. Weather prediction in 1885 is basically guesswork. We might wait weeks. Or, Trump said thoughtfully, maybe we can make our own luck. The next day, Trump approached Billy with a new proposition. He had heard that Billy was interested in scientific experiments and wondered if he might be willing to help with a demonstration that could have military applications. Military applications. Billy was intrigued. My associate Elon has been working on a way to generate and control electrical energy. If perfected, it could be used to disable enemy equipment, maybe even weapons. This wasn't entirely false. Musk's quantum field generators would indeed disable any equipment they encountered, but Trump was being deliberately vague about the actual purpose. Billy agreed to help, partly out of curiosity and partly because he was genuinely enjoying the mental stimulation of working with these unusual men. That evening, the entire town turned out to watch the electrical demonstration. Musk had spent the day constructing a massive kite, not unlike Benjamin Franklin's famous experiment, but much larger and more sophisticated. The kite was made from materials donated by the townspeople: silk scarves for the fabric, copper wire from the mine for conductors, and a wooden frame built by Jonas. The plan was to launch the kite during the next thunderstorm and use the electrical energy to power the time machine. But as Musk explained to the assembled crowd, they were going to attempt something even more ambitious. Ladies and gentlemen, Musk announced, standing before the time machine capsule which he had described as an electrical research apparatus, we're going to attempt to create our own lightning. This was a complete bluff. Musk had no way to create lightning with 1885 technology, but he was counting on the psychological effect of the demonstration, combined with his plans for the actual time machine activation, to create enough confusion to mask their departure. The townspeople watched in fascination as Musk and Jonas launched a massive kite into the night sky. Trump kept up a running commentary, explaining with complete fabrication how the electrical accumulator would store power from atmospheric disturbances. Billy and his gang watched with professional interest. They had seen a lot of unusual things in their travels, but nothing quite like this. Then, as if the universe was cooperating with their deception, a real thunderstorm began to build on the horizon. Dark clouds rolled in with impressive speed, and the first rumbles of thunder echoed across the desert. Perfect timing, Musk muttered to Trump. This might actually work. As the storm approached, Musk made final adjustments to his electrical systems. The quantum field generators were as ready as he could make them with 1885 materials. The temporal displacement calculations were programmed into a mechanical computer he had built using clockwork mechanisms. Everything depended on capturing enough electrical energy from the lightning strike. The first lightning bolt struck the kite with spectacular results. Electrical energy coursed down the copper wire, lighting up Musk's apparatus with an otherworldly glow. The townspeople gasped and applauded. thinking they were witnessing a successful scientific demonstration. But Musk knew they needed more power, much more. "Billy," Trump called out over the sound of the storm, "we need everyone to help hold the guide ropes. This is the dangerous part." Billy and his men joined the townspeople in holding the ropes that controlled the massive kite. What they didn't realize was that they were helping to position the kite for maximum electrical collection. The second lightning strike was even more powerful than the first. Energy flowed into Musk's systems with enough force to light up the entire town. The quantum field generators activated with a sound like reality itself being torn apart. "Now," Musk shouted to Trump, "into the capsule." They ran for the time machine as the crowd watched in amazement. The capsule was glowing with the same otherworldly light it had produced in Musk's laboratory, but now powered by the raw energy of a lightning storm. "Billy," Trump shouted as they climbed into the capsule, "remember what I told you about the horse races in Santa Fe? Bet on the brown horse in the third race next week." Billy waved back, still not understanding what was happening but caught up in the excitement of the moment. The quantum field reached critical mass, and reality began to blur around the edges. The last thing Musk saw was the amazed faces of the townspeople, lit by the flickering light of the temporal displacement field. Flash. The transition back to 2025 was smoother than their original displacement, but no less disorienting. Musk and Trump found themselves lying on the floor of the Tesla laboratory, surrounded by the familiar hum of modern technology. "Did that really happen?" Trump asked, sitting up slowly and looking around at the sleek surfaces and holographic displays. "Look at your clothes," Musk replied. Trump looked down at his suit, which was still covered in 1885 dust and showed wear from their weeks in the past. There was a tear in the sleeve from helping to construct the lightning rod system, and his shoes were scuffed from walking on dirt roads. "We really spent 3 weeks in 1885, Trump said, wonderingly. 3 weeks, 2 days, and 14 hours, Musk confirmed. Checking the temporal displacement readings on his equipment, they sat in silence for a moment, processing the magnitude of what they had experienced. Then Trump began to laugh. "What's so funny?" Musk asked. "I just realized I made a deal with Billy the Kid." Donald Trump, future president of the United States, negotiated a peace treaty with one of the most famous outlaws in American history. Musk started laughing too. "And I built a quantum field generator using 1885 blacksmith tools and powered it with lightning. If I wrote a paper about this, they'd revoke my engineering degrees. Are we going to tell anyone about this?" Musk considered the question seriously. "Time travel has implications we can't predict. If this technology became public knowledge, it could change everything. Wars could be fought over temporal access, entire timelines could be disrupted, so we keep it secret. For now, but Elon Trump's expression became thoughtful. "This experience taught me something important." "What's that?" "We worked well together. Really well. Despite our differences, despite the impossible situation, we found a way to cooperate and solve problems." Musk nodded. "You were right about turning problems into opportunities, and you were incredible with the people. I couldn't have managed the social aspects alone, and I couldn't have built a time machine if I had 100 years to work on it. We complemented each other." They stood up, brushing off the last of the 1885 dust from their clothes. The laboratory around them seemed somehow different now, not just a place of advanced technology, but a bridge between past and future. "So, what happens now?" Trump asked. "Now we figure out how to use what we learned. Time travel might be too dangerous to pursue further, but the experience itself, that has value. Maybe we should work together more often." "Not time travel," Trump added quickly, "but other projects. You handle the technical innovation, I handle the people and politics." Musk extended his hand. "Partners." Trump shook it firmly. "Partners. But next time you want to test experimental technology, maybe give me a heads up first." "Deal." And Trump, "Yeah." Let's never mention the part where you told Billy, the kid, about future horse races. Agreed, that stays between us. As they walked toward the laboratory exit, preparing to return to their normal 20-25 lives, neither of them could shake the feeling that their adventure in 1885 had changed something fundamental about their relationship. They had seen each other, not as political opponents or business rivals, but as partners facing an impossible challenge. The time machine sat quietly in the center of the laboratory, its quantum field generators powered down but ready. Musk had proven that temporal displacement was possible, but he had also learned that some knowledge was too dangerous to use lightly. Outside, the Austin sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that reminded them both of sunsets over the New Mexico desert in 1885. They had traveled 140 years into the past and returned safely, but more importantly, they had discovered that cooperation could overcome even the most impossible odds. The Wild West adventure was over, but their partnership was just beginning. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more great stories. Like the video too.